You asked for it, and we delivered. We've prepared a dossier of 10 cases that will make you question everything you thought you knew about the paranormal world. Over the years, we've investigated and documented paranormal activity around the world, but some stories stick with us. Stories of possession, haunted houses, contacts with the afterlife. Prepare to see the dark side of reality. Buckle up, because this is going to be an intense journey. Our first stop takes us to Enfield, England, home to one of the most disturbing cases of poltergeist activity ever recorded. Picture this. Two sisters, in a seemingly ordinary house, begin to experience unexplained events. Furniture moving on its own, objects levitating in the air. An unseen force was terrorizing those girls. The investigators who were called to the house witnessed the fury of that entity firsthand. Demonic voices echoed through the halls, objects materialized and vanished. But was it all real, or just an elaborate hoax? The line between reality and illusion blurs as we enter the sinister world of the Enfield case. Leaving England, we head to Utah, in the United States, to uncover the mysteries of Skinwalker Ranch. Isolated in the middle of the desert, the ranch gained notoriety for reports of paranormal activity that defy logic and reason. Cattle mutilations, bizarre creature sightings, UFO sightings, a succession of unexplained events that transformed the ranch into a black spot on the UFO map. Researchers and investigators from different fields have delved into the case, searching for an explanation for the phenomena occurring there. Roland Doe, an ordinary teenager from Maryland, saw his life change forever after contact with the spirit world. It all started with a Ouija board, a tool that many believe opens doors to the unknown. We know curiosity can be powerful, and Roland, perhaps seeking contact with someone who had passed away, took a chance. He wanted to talk to his deceased aunt. But what he found on the other side wasn't the familiar voice he expected. What followed was a nightmare. Objects moving on their own, unexplained sounds, strange marks on Roland's body. He was at the epicenter of a dark force that no one could explain. It was as if something evil had crossed the veil and grabbed the boy's soul. The Cold War wasn't just about political tension and the arms race, but also a hidden battle, fought in the labs and minds of scientists. At the center of this battle was Nina Kulagina, a Russian housewife who claimed to have abilities that defied logic and science. Nina wasn't a public figure. She didn't seek fame or fortune. She was a simple woman who said she could move objects with the power of her mind. At first, her claims were met with skepticism, but the evidence, captured in grainy black and white videos, was disturbing. In controlled experiments, under the watchful eyes of renowned scientists, Nina seemingly demonstrated the ability to influence matter with her mind. Objects moved, compasses spun uncontrollably, and even people's heart rates were altered, all without a single touch. The Smurl family from Pennsylvania was like any other. Loving parents, lively children, a home where peace and harmony reigned. But this tranquility would be shattered by unexplainable events that would turn their lives into a nightmare. It all started subtly. Strange smells, like sulfur and rotting meat, invaded the house with no apparent source. Objects moved on their own, doors opened and slammed shut, and indistinct whispers echoed through the halls. At first, the family tried to ignore the events, but the activity increased every day. The situation worsened when the events became more intense and threatening. The children reported being touched by invisible hands at night. Scratches appeared on their bodies, and demonic figures manifested on the walls, Fear gripped the Smurl family, trapping them in their own home. Annabelle. The name itself sends shivers down your spine. This doll, folks, is no joke. It's a vessel for something deeply sinister, something I've seen with my own eyes. It all started with two roommates, completely unaware of the terror they were about to face. They received this seemingly innocent Raggedy Ann doll as a gift. But this gift came with a very high price. Soon, strange things started to happen. The doll moved on its own, changing positions, appearing in different rooms. Notes written in childish handwriting, disturbing messages scribbled as if a child were guiding that pencil. Fear set in, with every movement of the doll, every sinister message, the feeling of being watched, of something lurking. They knew something wasn't right, that this seemingly innocent toy held a dark secret. They tried to seek help, tried to understand what was happening. That's when they called a medium, and what the medium discovered chilled their blood. The spirit of a little girl named Annabelle Higgins, who had tragically died on that very spot. But this wasn't a benevolent soul seeking contact. It was something dark, something that clung to the doll, something that wanted much more than just to play. This thing, this entity posing as Annabelle, wanted a host, a body to inhabit. The situation became increasingly dangerous, with the entity becoming more aggressive, more audacious. The roommates knew they had to do something to get rid of that evil presence before it was too late. That's when they contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Perron family. An ordinary family looking for a new home, a fresh start. They found a spacious house in Rhode Island. It seemed perfect, idyllic. But what they didn't know was that this house, this property, had a dark past, a terrible secret that was about to be revealed. At first, it was just small, subtle things. A strange smell, a foul odor that seemed to permeate the house. Objects moving on their own, changing places when no one was looking. Whispers in the dark, disembodied voices that seemed to mock the family, terrifying them. With each passing day, the activity increased, becoming more intense, more threatening. They discovered that the house had a long and tragic history. Several families had lived there before them, and many suffered horrible fates. Bizarre accidents, unexplained suicides, brutal murders. The land itself seemed to be cursed, stained by the pain and suffering of all who had ever lived there. But the worst was yet to come. The family began to experience physical attacks, cold touches, scratches and bites. The entity, or entities, were becoming bolder, more aggressive. The Perrons were trapped in a nightmare, terrified in their own home. Desperate, they sought the help of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Amityville, a name that whispers of darkness, a place where evil showed itself in a brutal and relentless way. It all started with a cold-blooded mass murder. 6 members of the DeFeo family were shot and killed in their own home, victims of an unimaginable act of violence. Ronald DeFeo Jr., the oldest son, confessed to the crime, claiming he was controlled by demonic voices that made him do it. A year after the killings, the Lutz family moved into the house. They knew about the tragedy, but they believed they could overcome the past and make the house a happy home. Little did they know they were walking straight into a nightmare. From the very beginning, strange things started to happen. Sickening smells like sulfur and rotting meat filled the air. Objects moved on their own. Doors slammed open and shut. A freezing cold would take over certain rooms even on the warmest days. And then, the entities started to show themselves. Whispering voices, children's laughter coming from nowhere. A thick, dark goo dripped down the walls. A pair of glowing red eyes watched the family from the shadows. The youngest daughter, Missy, started talking to an imaginary friend, a demonic being who called itself Jody. The story we're about to tell is bone-chilling, one of those that makes you question everything you think you know about the world. We're talking about the case of Arne Cheyenne Johnson, a man who claimed to have committed murder under the evil influence of a demonic entity. Imagine being controlled by a dark force, unable to fight against its impulses. It's a nightmare that became reality. In 1981, Johnson committed an unthinkable act. He took the life of his landlord, Alan Bono, in Connecticut. What made this case even more disturbing was Johnson's claim. He wasn't responsible for his actions because he was possessed by a demon. Johnson's trial was an unprecedented media event. For the first time in US history, demonic possession was used as a legal defense. Paranormal experts, including the renowned investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, were called to testify, adding more mystery and controversy to the case. Johnson's defense was based on events that preceded the murder. His fiance's family, the Glatzels, claimed that their youngest son David had been tormented by an evil entity for months. They described terrifying events like objects moving on their own, guttural voices, and even physical attacks by an unseen force. The Warrens, known for their investigation in Amityville, were called in to help the Glatzel family. They conducted a series of exorcisms on David, trying to drive out the evil entity that was tormenting him. According to the Warrens and eyewitnesses, during these rituals, the demonic entity made several threats, promising to return and cause more suffering. Get ready for a story that will chill you to the bone and make you think twice about moving into an old house. The Snedeker family lived a real nightmare in an old funeral home in Southington, Connecticut. What started with whispers and shadows quickly turned into a terrifying battle against dark forces. In 1986, the Snedeker family, seeking relief for their son Philip, who was battling cancer, found what seemed like the perfect house. Little did they know they were crossing the threshold into a living hell. Soon after moving in, strange things started to happen. Objects moved on their own. Sinister whispers echoed through the empty halls. And Carmen Snedeker, the family matriarch, began to have terrifying visions. She described shadowy figures that seemed to watch them from the darkness and felt an evil presence oppressing her. As days turned into weeks, the paranormal activity intensified. The children reported seeing ghostly figures, and Philip, the youngest son, began to exhibit disturbing behavior, speaking in strange tongues and having violent seizures. It seemed like the house was draining the life force from the boy, already weakened by his illness. Carmen and her husband, desperate, sought help. Who did they call? The famous paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed and Lorraine immediately recognized the evil energy that permeated the house. The history of the place, a former funeral home where they embalmed bodies in the basement, explained the intense and sinister activity. Using her psychic abilities, Lorraine confirmed the presence of multiple demonic entities, each with its own macabre history and thirst for revenge. The house was a portal, a magnet for evil, and the Snedeker family was trapped in its vortex of horror. And so we come to the end of our journey through the darkest corners of the paranormal world. Stories of possession, haunted houses, and encounters with the unexplained that challenge our understanding of reality. But these are just a few of the many stories out there. Stories that remind us that, despite all our scientific and technological knowledge, there are still mysteries that cannot be explained, forces that we cannot control. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, it's undeniable that there are phenomena we still can't explain. And perhaps that's the beauty of the unknown, the ability to make us question, to keep us humble in the face of the vastness of the universe and its mysteries. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep exploring the unknown, but always with caution.